So we're going to play a quick game. In fact, if I give you, like, if you ask someone to name a card, right, often they'll name an ace of spades or something like that. I don't want you to name that, so hold this for me. I don't want you to have that. We're going to play this quick game, and it's going to look and feel like magic, but it's not. It's just skill and psychology, okay? And what I want you to do is name any card that you want, any one. If you just name a random one, what one would you name?
Say it out loud.
Yeah.
2 of diamonds.
Okay. Did you change your mind? For example, if you ask a lot of people to do one, they'll normally go for something like a queen or a court card or something like that, but you kind of like instantly went for a 2 of diamonds, yeah? Because what's going to happen, I'm going to mix these up. If I fan these in front of your eyes, I want you to see if you can memorize wherever the 2 of diamonds is. Like, I'll mix these up so nobody knows, right?
Okay, all right.
If I do this, I want you to memorize roughly where that is, but that's the only time I'm going to give you. Don't say anything. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to do this, and I want you to stab the ace into the deck right next to wherever you think the 2 of diamonds is, okay? Ready? So look, I'll just do this, ready? Stab it in. Wherever, oh, hang on, there, but don't let go of the ace, don't let go. You've actually stabbed that next to 2, right? There's one above and one below. Do you want it to be the one above or the one below?
There's a lot of pressure. I'm gonna go ahead and say the one below.
The one below, look, I'm gonna look, get rid of that one. Look, ready? Are you named, what was it, the 2 of diamonds?
2 of diamonds.
You could have named any one. If the 2 of diamonds is in my hand, would that be amazing?
It would be pretty incredible, but I mean, assuming my luck, it's not gonna be.
All right.
It was the one above.
All right, well,
let's
look,
be honest.
Well, what about if you're already holding it?
Don't do that. No. Please don't do that. I don't even want to look, bro.
Wait. Sorry.
See his face.
There's no fucking way. There's zero fucking chance.
Stop. That is so weird.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay.
Hold of the ace, because you've actually placed it next to 2 cards.
Okay.
There's one above and there's one below. Which do you want the Jack of Hearts to be? The one above or the
Above.
one below? So not the one below. You want this to be the Jack of Hearts?
I do. I don't know what's going to be.
You could have named any one. This wasn't one I asked you to take, just name.
I named it.
If the Jack of Hearts is in my hand, right, would that be amazing?
I mean, obviously it'd be amazing. I don't know how you're doing any of this.
All right. Well,
Okay, that's cheating. You can't put
what
it back.
about if you're already holding it?
No. But you were holding the ace, and
Oh my god, how do you do that?
Oh. I'm out of it. Yeah, I'm out. Yeah, I'm out, bro.
Look, I'll get rid of this. So you could have named anyone. Ready? You could have named anyone.
Yeah.
If the 8 of clubs is in my hand, would you be impressed?
Yeah, I would be impressed because I didn't see what your hand is.
All right. Right, well then you're going to go crazy when you realize you're already holding it.
That's pretty good.
Do you want it to be the one above or the one below? So not the one below. So what was it, the 2 of diamonds? If you have put this next to the 2 of diamonds, you could have named any one, right? If I'm holding this and this is in my hand, would that be impressive? What about if you're already holding it?
Stop.
That's insane.
It's definitely not in my hand. Turn it over.
Oh my god!
What the hell?
Oh my god! Oh my god! There's no way.
I actually never done it. This is fucking insane. Holy shit.
Hello. Now here we are at the explanation for In Your Hand. This is based on a simple idea of Theodore Annemann's. He published a routine called Card in Hand in The Miracles of Card Magic, or Theodore Annemann's Miracles of Card Magic, also in his collected works, The Life and Times of Theodore Annemann. And the Card in Hand is a very, very simple idea. I'll very quickly explain an aspect of the thing from Theodore Annemann's. He would basically have a card selected and controlled. I think he talked about using a Berlin hull subtlety to do that. I'm not sure exactly which. I think that was in the Miracles book. Anyway, he would basically have a card. He would have a double lift, and you would hand this to someone. You would have them place it inside the deck, and they would hold onto it. And while they're holding onto it, you would basically cut above it, and you would say, "Here," and they would say, "No." And then you would remove this hand, and you would kind of say, "Here," and they would say, "No." And you go, "Ah." And you would snap your fingers, and then it changes in their hand. That idea of them basically placing it inside and basically going here or here, no. That idea I thought was really nice. It's a really nice thing. It's like a lot of card magic stuff. Often it is just a very simple procedure or structure around a moment that can kind of change everything. I always really liked that. But I kind of over the years developed it into something a bit more stark. So in this, instead of having a card selected and controlled and then doing a double lift, in this they have a card named and it's right out in the open. They seem to just push this card in, and I've structured it in a way where it really leads them down the garden path before we then turn the hose on them. And this really starts in a way by me saying to them, look, we're going to play a game, and it's going to all intents and purposes, going to look and feel exactly like magic. Like if we do this right, if you do this right, it's going to look and feel exactly like that. But it's not really. It's just all skill and psychology. But it's going to look and feel like it. But let me show you. And the reason I like this way of going about it is twofold. One, again, it's got that thing of me trying to be honest, and I'm really kind of not necessarily about being honest. It's just, I like this idea of not having to lie or create something they can question at the very start. It feels very honest, and it already starts to pull them in. And I have many, many, many ways of thinking about doing this. In fact, I even use this type of structure about talking about skill and psychology in many different ways. I like it in this because it makes it also feel like it's also about them, and they're going to have to do something maybe, and it starts pulling them in. The more we go in, you'll see this is what happens. They feel like they're going to fail. They feel like they won't be able to do it. And so it creates that subtle anxiety, which is going to further impact the end. So I really like this structure of saying, look, it's just skill and psychology. It doesn't stop the moment feeling impossible and magical. The fact that you said this is just skill and psychology, there's nothing for them to kind of grab onto, but they also know that you're being honest with them. So if anything, it kind of compounds the feeling of it. So I love this way of talking to people where it's kind of slightly conversational, aspects of it become philosophical, or it becomes self-referential, but it is always kind of true, whatever I'm saying, to some extent. There's a truth there that I really like. So let's get into it. There's a lot of different ways I handle this. The other thing is the reality is this is the most stark training tool you will ever have for learning how to control a card or get control of a card and top change it. I mean, for me, I thought that what's the hardest possible way to do a switch? And that is to give someone something already, have to have them name a card. So not even selected. And I've got to try and find it, even though they've just named it. I've then got to take back what they have, switch it for the thing that they've named, and hand it back to them without them knowing. And that I felt was like, if I can do that, that's the best way for me to, I'd have to be good at controlling cards. I'd have to be good at doing the top change. So when I first developed this, I kind of developed it as a training tool. And I used it as a way of really getting good at being able to find named cards and do top changes. It turned out over time, I ended up doing this all the time because this training tool that I developed really actually became a really powerful piece of magic, and I loved doing it. But really, I started doing this with kind of not really any skill at all when it come to finding cards or doing top changes. And I knew that if I could just get better and better at this, then I must be good at the end of it. So, any of you that might find aspects of this procedure daunting, trust me, it was the same for me. I really couldn't do it. I just knew this was the hardest way to do it. If you have a selection and a control and a double lift or something, at least you've kind of got nice and cozy, comforting control early on. If they've already got a card and you've got to get it off them and swap it for one they've named that you don't have control over, this feels very exposed. But you'll see from the structure of this, there's a lot of very, very subtle things going on that are going to give me an advantage or an edge for being able to kind of control what they're perceiving. So this starts off, like I said this is going to look and feel exactly like magic if we do this right. But it's not. It's just skill and psychology. And I just leave that there. And I say, so we're going to start. In fact, would you take the Ace of Spades? And I always do this with the Ace of Spades. I hand them the Ace of Spades because it feels like it just feels like a very easy and common card to remember. It just feels like, I don't know, there's something about, if you just hand someone the Nine of Hearts for no reason, it feels like, well, why am I being handed the Nine of Hearts? There's something about the Ace of Spades which I feel like it's kind of questioned less. It's more of a grey man. So I hand this to them, but what's really important here, fundamentally important, is that I hand it to them face up. This is so key. Even if I show it here and hand it to them face down, this is no good. The reason I hand it to them face up is because now, when they take it face up and they hold it in their hands, they just immediately don't care anymore. And they just go, oh yeah, they know it's the Ace of Spades. If I hand it to them face down, I show it to them, I hand it to them face down, the fact they're holding it face down, they might have an impulse to check. And as a result of that, it means that you've already kind of conditioned this idea of checking a card, and I don't want that to be the case. It also means by the very end, they may misremember and think, was that the card you gave me at the beginning? I want them to have no question that they were holding this the whole way through. So the easiest way for me to do that is to hand it to them face up. This subtlety alone took me a long time to figure out. These things are going to seem very easy when I explain them to you, but trust me, they're kind of not as intuitive as you might think. So I hand this to them and they hold on to it. I say, okay, great. Would you name any card for me that you want? Any one at all. It doesn't matter which. Now, once they name that, there are a number of ways that I can handle getting control of it. And again, this Ace of Spades is not part of it because they just are holding it face up. There's nothing to question. So in this case, let me just run through it. Let's say 3 of diamonds, okay? Which is about a third of the way down in the deck. So in this case, I'll say, okay, 3 of diamonds. That's interesting. Now, if, for example, I was to try and in fact, I shouldn't memorize. In fact, you should do this. In fact, I shouldn't be the one memorizing. You're the one that should be doing this. Okay, here goes. Now, I want you to try and memorize where that 3 of diamonds might be, okay? I don't know if you had enough time. In fact, that's all the time you really should have. That's it. Now, in this moment, I've got complete control over this 3 of diamonds already, even though it was named randomly. And the way in which we're going to do that, we'll go back, we'll use the 3 of diamonds again, is this comes down to part of the hook at the beginning. When I've said to them, this is about skill and psychology, right? This gives me an ability here to kind of go searching. So when they say the 3 of diamonds, I go, okay. That first bunch, you'll see this on the overhead, I say, okay, now I've already looked at like 10 cards, scanned them immediately, and haven't said anything apart from the word okay. So I can now continue pushing bunches. I've seen this 3. And I say, now if I was to memorize and I've culled it using the single card cull, which we've taught here, and it's now under the spread. And I stop myself and go, actually, I shouldn't be doing this. It's you who should be doing this, okay? And this now makes sense. When we talked about skill and psychology, now it's like, oh, this is going to be my skill and psychology. Now there's a bit of anxiety that creeps in. Meanwhile, as I've said that, I've given this a stock shuffle control, maintaining that 3 of diamonds on top. We taught this elsewhere in Unreal Card Magic, or not. Maybe I could do the riffle shuffle here. It depends. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, I'm just going to look through and find it. Now, there is an art to finding cards right in front of people when they've named them by looking through the deck. And most of it comes down to your attitude. Most of it comes down, it's not the exact nature of the technique in your hands, it's actually your attitude. There's a number of other ways I'll do. I'll try and run through a couple of ways. So I'll look for the 3 of diamonds each time, that's now inside. I'll say, okay, now if I was to look, in fact, I shouldn't even be doing this, you should. If you were to look through these, how good do you think you would be at memorizing? Leave the question with him. And again, I have this 3 of diamonds. Now in this case, I cut the cards. I looked through, saw the 3 of diamonds, okay? And in this case, all I'm gonna do, I've got this 3 here. I'm just gonna cut the cards as I rotate it around and say, actually, I shouldn't be doing this, you should. And put the onus onto them. I'm not trying to hide the fact that I'm looking through the deck in this case. What I'm gonna do is provide a more soft kind of context for doing it. And in this case that I explained initially was just, look, if I was to memorize these cards, it might take me a few minutes. How quickly do you think it would take you to memorize those cards? And the answer. And again, I've just culled it to the top again. There's many ways of doing it. The single card cull or the cut, both of which can be done, very, very simply right out in the open. There's another way you could do this. If I look for the 3 this time, I'll say, okay, that's very interesting. Now, let's actually place it close to the top, in fact. So I've got to search for longer. Let's imagine that. So if I said now, okay, interesting, 3 of diamonds. Now, you could have named like any one of these cards. And if I was to ask you to go through and try and memorize this, it might take a while, or if you could have named any one. Do you think it's possible that you could memorize the exact position of your card, in a few seconds or whatever it is, and I still have control? We could have it at the top, and I could say something like, okay, so 3 of diamonds. Now, you could have named anyone. So, for example, you could have named a picture card, or you could have named a low, well, you didn't name a low value one, but you could have named any picture card. You could have named any of these. It's important that you know that this was one that you named, and it wasn't one that I asked you to take out. And I'm saying that while shuffling, and again, I have control of 3 of diamonds. The point is that I'm just going to allow my words and my actions to be very soft, very smooth as I'm talking to them. I understand the timing of the moment. I'm really not doing much technically, sometimes cutting, sometimes culling. If we look at this from above, you're going to see that this 3 of diamonds being culled here is just a standard cull that we taught elsewhere. I'm just going to spread through, I'm going to see it, I'm going to cull it underneath. I do this. There's nothing, you can see it here over on the front camera, you can see it's riding underneath those cards. Just a very, very simple, clean move, but it happens in the flow of the conversation. So let's do this again. So I handed them this, they name one, and they say the 3 of diamonds. I go, okay, that's really interesting. Now, if I was to try and go through the cards and memorize the exact order of them, you might not be that impressed, because you might think this is something that I can kind of do quite easily. But if I was to ask you to do it, especially with them being mixed, and in fact you had to, what was it, the 3 of diamonds, Queen of diamonds or 3 of diamonds? 3 of diamonds, okay. If you were to try and memorize where that is, how well do you think you would do? And again, this is under control. Again, that Queen and 3 ruse is quite a nice one. You can also do it with 5s and 9s as well. This is also good. 8s and aces. Sometimes kings and 10s, but it depends. So, okay, well, I'm going to ask you to see if you can look inside and memorize exactly where that 3 of diamonds is, okay? But you only get that amount of time. That's it. And at this point, they will go, okay, I didn't, sometimes they'll say, I didn't see it. Or they say, I didn't have enough. I say, okay, well, look, in fact, let me shuffle them. All right, okay, we shuffle. I'll give you one more chance. Ready? Here goes. Right, there we go. We do the one-handed fan and closure. That's it. That's all you get. Sometimes I might do this, but often I'll just do this and go, look, that's all you get. And this is the one-handed fan and close. It's face down, but obviously up towards them, which means they can at least appear to see all of them. I say, see if you can just memorize where you think that 3 is, but that's all you get. What you're going to make sure is you don't spread the 3 right off of the end in case it gets seen. So you just make sure that when you do this fan, we'll see this from above, I'm going to make sure there's like a block held at the end of cards of at least 3 or 4 cards there, so this card isn't spreading off. So from the front, you're not going to have a chance of seeing that 3, and then I just close it and I come down like this. And they go, oh, and in that state of them going, oh, I don't know, if I say, what I want you to do is take the ace and just push it into the deck. Now, as I say push it into the deck, this is not only telling them what to do, but it means that my sneaky hand has come close to their ace, which is face up in their hands. So as it comes close, I come in and I go push it. All I want you to do is take the ace and push it in. And as my hand comes down, I just take it from them. Push it in right anywhere like this. And I just riffle down the outside like that. And they can see this is still the ace right next to wherever you think the ace, the 3 of diamonds is. So, and as I take this out, right, sometimes I spin this around like this. Okay, sometimes I just take this out like this. I say just place this in wherever you think, right? Right next to where you think the 3 of diamonds is, okay? I just hand it to them. And at this point, they just take this back. They're now taking it back face down. Now they can't see it, but they won't really remember it turning over. They won't, by the end of this effect, even remember letting go of the card. And it's basically you've taken the card from them, swapped it, and handed them back one face down. But because they've been standing here the whole time holding a card, knowing that it's the ace of spades, because it's been face up in their hands, and they've got this feeling of a card in their hands, they're going to have this feeling again, and they're just going to feel that this is the ace of spades. They're not going to even check it. You'll see from the performances that happening. Okay, let me just run through that quickly again. So I start at the beginning, I hand them this, give them that ace. And I'll say, okay, this is just skill and psychology. Just name any one that you like. So let's say the 3 of diamonds. I say, okay. Now, if I was to try and run through the cards and memorize them and memorize the positions of them all, you might not be that impressed because this is something I might do a lot of, but it might not be something that you do. And what I want you to do is you could have named any one, right? Okay. What I want you to do is just see if you can memorize where was the 3 of diamonds. 3 of diamonds, just memorize where that is, okay? But that's all you get, okay? Almost like a subconscious impression. And what I want you to do is take the ace and just push it into the deck. This is where I grab it, it's hard from the table. Push it into the deck, right next to, as I riffle down the outside, right next to wherever you think the 3 is, right? Okay, so just hold that for me and just push it in. And as they're taking it, what I do is I also start doing this, which often pulls attention back towards me as they're taking this. So they now take that. Now, I don't actually often riffle down the outside like that. Often what I do is I come back, I hold like this, and I riffle like this. The reason I do that is because it means that when they do stick this in, because my pressure is going down on the top of the deck like this, you can't actually stick it all the way in. It will only go in halfway because of the pressure from here. So I do this. Now, sometimes people look inside and they try and look for the 3. And I say, no, don't look, just use instinct. Just use instinct, go in. Okay, and as soon as some point they just push that in. Now, when they push that in, they often will sometimes push in and let go. So I often would say, no, don't let go of the ace. Keep hold. And that's another chance to be able to reaffirm that it's the ace. Keep hold of it, keep hold of it. And now what I do, once they're in that position and they're holding, I now spread through and say, now look, you actually placed it above and below a card, or in between 2 cards. Do you want it to be the one above or below? Now they're still holding onto that card. Okay, so once they're holding onto it, if they said, for example, they want it to be the one above, then I very slowly come over and I say, and they're still holding this, by the way, I say, so not the one below. Okay, and if they said the one above, I would simply just start pushing that over and say, look, and not the one above. You want it to be the one below. Okay. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. They're still holding on to this apparent ace. So let's say they said they don't want it to be the one below. I come and say, okay, so not the one below. You want it to be this one. And in this phase, what I do is this hand drops away and I step back. I look at it and then I look at them. I'll just say, look, 3 of diamonds. Now, what happens is they are holding onto this, which they believe is the ace, and often the hand will just drop because it's now not relevant. It's not really part of it. You see it in what happens. They just completely forget they're even holding this card. And they're just now holding this down by their side. And the way I time this now is I go, 3 of diamonds. Now, would this be impressive if I was holding the 3 of diamonds? I mean, you could have named any one. This wasn't one you took out. You named one. And you just placed the ace in wherever you wanted. If you've put that right next to the card you've named, just one in your head. That was in my hand. Would this be impressive? And they'll say, well, yeah, and it depends how they react. And then what I do is this. I say, often I do this. I sit back and I just look down and I do this. Now, this will sometimes get a laugh because it feels like you're basically saying, well, it's not. This is wrong. And you're putting it, sometimes that gets a laugh. It's not what I'm necessarily going for, but sometimes it happens. I just basically do this and I go, well, what about if it's in yours? And I've broken eye contact with them. I'm not actually looking at them anymore. Instead of kind of staring them down as this happens, I like this moment of just kind of going, would you be impressed if this was in my hand? Right? Well, what about if it's in yours? I kind of take myself away out of that moment, and it kind of separates me. And in doing that, you'll see in the performance, I always step back. I get just an extra bit of distance from them, and I create all the attention up here, which takes even more off of their hand. I do this, I step back, I push this in. What about if it's in yours? And at this point, they often don't even want to look at the card because it feels so impossible. I turn this over, and this is the card they named. They often, almost always, will say, but you never touched it. You literally never touched the card. You never came near it. And this largely comes from handing them that ace face up at the beginning, giving it to them face up. They just take it, know it's it. There's no questioning. They hold it. They've got that feeling in their hands the whole time. They've named one. All the attention is out here. With the way in which it was taken from them, you didn't say, oh, can you hand it to me? And there's nothing for them to remember. It was in the concept of an instruction. When you've said, all you're going to do as I go down is place it in, they're listening. And they're listening to that instruction. And in that moment, I also take it and say, just place it anywhere inside, next to where you think it is. There we go. And you immediately hand it back. Now it's face down, but it's turned over in a very, very nice, convenient, efficient way that they don't notice. So now, as a result, I can do that. They push it in, above or below. All of the attention is on that. The structure feels like it's building towards that. Not this one, this one. They're still standing there holding this. Their hand normally drops. At this point, they feel this is what this is. What else could it be? You could have named anyone. Or when I ask you to take, you just place the ace in anywhere. If this is the 3 of diamonds or whatever it is, would you be impressed? If it's in my hand, would that be amazing? What about if it's in yours? That structuring of it just absolutely pulls a reaction out of them. And it's taken me many years to kind of create that effect. There's lots of different subtleties, things going on in it, but it's also a really, really stark version of finding a card. It's so clean. Imagine that. You just hand someone a card face up. They name one. And the next thing they know, it's changed in their hand. That's what's happening. It's a transformation. Again, I love transformations, but it's happening in a very different way. And if you can do this routine, it's a brilliant way of practicing your ability to find name cards and also practice doing a top change. You're going to have to find different senses of the moment when doing it as a result. And but when you do, you've got something that truly feels like magic. And what I love is, like I said at the beginning, I've already said, but it's not, it's just skill and psychology, which is exactly what it is. So it kind of leaves them in a very strange place. Someone's been honest with them, told them exactly what something is, yet they have no clue how it's worked, and their brain is screwed. This is happening with very clean, very clear, very simple ideas, but put together in the right structure, with the right technique and the right psychology. If you can put those things together, it's what I write about in the WTF book, in the right way, you can have something very, very powerful. And in your hand is definitely one of them. Big, I don't know what that is. It's not a salute, a tip of the doffing of the cap. I don't know. Girl Guides salute. I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, it's nodding towards Theodore Annemann for the small idea of the putting a card in and just saying, not this one, not this one. Just that alone, I've always loved, and it just kind of gave rise to me trying to create this, which is why it's called In Your Hand. Annemann's original was a card in hand. So I think that fittingly, that's what it's about. So all respect to Theodore Annemann for that. But just shows how a simple idea can give birth to all kinds of things. It's not how I wanted to end that, but who cares? I'm always ending it weird. Anyway, right. Enjoy, play with it, train. It's a miracle. Go out and mess with heads.